Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
Hi, Guffogg.
Hi, Lisa Tomczeszyn. Thank you for coming. And what I want to start doing here is to, and Brent did it last show, is to start having a talk or a Q&A at the end of each exhibition for our archives, for our little museum here. So we start building a history, which I think is important to do. Instead of them just coming and going and nobody remembers anything. And I think it's important to have this opportunity. So this is my good friend, Lisa Tomczeszyn, who I've known for more years than I will reveal. And we met at a Hollywood party, and it's fun to tell. Sandra Bullock was throwing a party, and she rented a restaurant, and she was starring in and producing a film called Practical Magic. And she wanted the cast and crew to all meet. So she rented a restaurant through this dinner party. And my then spouse was in the movie as an actress. And we went, and I really disliked going to those parties because everybody is...
I disliked going to those parties, and I was working on the movie.
Yeah.
But my husband loved going to those parties.
And he was not working in the movie.
He was not working on the movie.
No. So we went, and we walked in, and there's all these actors and all these camera people, and everybody's on, waiting, and hi. And I said, oh my God. And I saw Lisa standing over by the bar with her husband. I said, I'm going to go meet those people. They look like real people. We became great friends, and I've known Sarah since she was a little girl. That's Lisa's daughter. And during this filming, we had to go to San Juan Islands.
Yes.
This is fun about the movie industry. So the interior shots were filmed at Paramount Studios. Was it Paramount or?
Most of the interior shots
were in Hollywood.
Shot in Hollywood.
In Hollywood, on a soundstage.
Yep.
All the exterior shots were filmed on this little island, San Juan Islands.
Friday Harbor.
Friday Harbor, and they just built a mock-up of the house, and there was nothing behind the house, only the front of it. You know, and so people don't realize the magic of the movie business. So I went up there and I rented a big SUV, and I drove all the ladies around. all the actresses and Lisa.
And me.
So I was their personal chauffeur, and I'd take them to go eat and stuff, you know, like on a Sunday. It was Easter, I remember.
It was Easter.
And we didn't have any plans. I said, well, let's go and find a little pub and have some Guinness stout and have a good time. And there was who else was in that film? Aidan Quinn was in the film.
Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman.
Chloe,
who was the Sex Pistols person, and on and on and on. So
yeah,
it was great.
There's a lot of actors.
It was a great group of people, and it was a lot of fun. So
it was fun.
That's how we met, and we always stayed in touch. And then I became very good friends with Lisa's husband Scott, who was a great writer, and Lisa was always making art and showing me what she was doing along the way. And then she would call and she said, oh, I've just got this movie gig and I got to go out of town for like 6 months. And I was like, where are you going? Atlanta or Vancouver and so she did the Hunger Games, those costumes. She did the Marvel Comics, all those costumes. And at one point she invited me with my son.
Oh, right.
He's still around. I think he was 15 or something.
Yeah.
And so she had to get special permission from
Disney
for us to even enter onto the property and go
They
into
got to
this
go
building
into the Marvel costume house.
and see how it's
fun.
all done. And it was fascinating.
Yeah.
And what I didn't know is she would go, they would do a 3D scan of all the actors. So here are models, precise 3D scans of all the models. So there's Robert Downey Jr., who's about this tall. And you know, he's a real small little guy. And it's like looking at all these people and you recognize them. It's like, oh. And then Lisa was the one who would then go to their homes or to their trailers.
Juliana did too.
Yeah. But so she would go and precisely measure all the actors. And then Juliana would, and with Lisa's help, would design
There are hundreds of people in the costume department on films like that.
Literally.
There are illustrators, there are tailors, there are stitchers, there are fabric artists, there are people that take those 3D body scans and you'll have the body milled in foam, and then you've got to cast that foam body in urethane, and then you make a mold, and then you make a cast, and then so you can then get 10 Chris Evans if you need them. And sometimes you do need them. But it's because these actors are usually not available for the kind of time that fitting a superhero costume. First of all, they're not comfortable. They're heavy, they're itchy, they're hot, and they're tight.
And now some of these people, like Robert Downey Jr., who's what, 5'6", on a good day, and very small. So here he is with this costume with these big muscles and a six-pack, and these large pectoral muscles, and all that is stitched in to the costume. And
every superhero has a muscle suit. It doesn't matter how ripped the actor is. That muscle suit makes sure that the silhouette of that character is always the same. It doesn't matter how much pizza you had on Friday, because you go in and you put your muscle suit on, but your costume is fitted to fit over. The girls don't have muscle suits.
I was just going to say, I wish I had one of those.
No, the girls don't have muscle suits.
so,
The girls don't get pizza on
and
Friday.
this, these are things that the average person has no idea about. And I remember it was one of the Marvel comics had to look like he had metal scales, and
Yes.
you came up with the idea of silk screening, painting.
It wasn't an original idea to me, but I had the privilege of having a lot of skills, and there were often times in which I would actively interact with creating drawn elements of, I drew the first spider for Spider-Man, and I drew it 78 times because the designer would go, well, we're going to move that web this way, because that costume designer, James Atchison, might be the most genius of all the English costume designers.
Oh, he was a nice guy.
Yeah, and it's just, yeah, but there is magic that happens. There is technology, there is science. And what I used to always have to tell producers, because you're always fighting about money. It doesn't matter that you have an $11 million budget. There is never enough money, because they have these ideas that are like, and so I would very carefully, with other people, create these timelines of, if you want this, it's going to take this amount of time to get there. And I would give them why it took that amount, because I knew what every step was. And they'd go, oh, it's too expensive, we can't have it. I'm like, okay, we'll cut that out of the budget, that's fine. But then they'll come back to you 3 weeks before they want to shoot it. Well, you know what, we really do want that? And I'm like, you know what, guys? The laws of physics are against you. You can't have it, because it's impossible, because this and this and this. And I told you in the beginning, I told you why it took this time, and I told you why it took this money. I told you why it takes 57 people to get that. This is what no one understands, is the amount of craft that goes into every element of a costume.
Yeah.
It's a total collaborative process. Costume design is a collaborative process.
Has this changed with AI?
AI changes what's happened. Well, the whole computer-generated imagery started in the late 90s. Computer-generated imagery had started by the time we were doing Spider-Man 1. I would walk into Sony ImageWorks, and there would be like 5 rooms this size, and all I could think was ka-ching, 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 because there's a computer graphics artist at each computer. And they learned that they could generate images based on, and now they do it with stop motion suits, green screen suits. The technology constantly gets bigger and bigger. But AI doesn't have the ideas. And
Yep.
you know, it's a huge debate in the whole art world right now of what's AI, what's not AI, what's allowed. Can AI think? Can
Sure.
AI be an artist? I don't have that answer.
Right, not yet.
You know?
Hopefully it never does.
I guess my question was directed to what you were saying, that sometimes they would have these ideas that you could not create.
There was a
Whether-
time.
I was wondering if AI would help create.
There are things that they can do now that they could not do then. There are now whole costumes that are totally generated in illustration on a computer. They're never made in 3D. And the one thing that happens when you are taking artists that are used to working in 2D, which is drawing and painting, they have no idea how to actually make something that lives in 3D on a living physical actor. The physics of the human body changes how you wear clothes. Fabric stretches, not stretches. So there's a lot of things that they can do with computer-generated imagery that you could never get a regular costume to do. It's not possible. I'm curating a show right now that this is our second year. It's called Wearable Art. And the thesis of it is these garments have to be wearable. A human being has to be able to put them on and walk around in them. And, there's still people that create really beautiful things.
So every now and then Lisa would call me and she'd be on set somewhere. And like she was in Atlanta doing the Hunger Games. And she rented a house, and behind the house was this pond and meadow. And
Yeah.
so on her one day off, she would take her watercolor paper and go out.
Sundays were painting days.
They were her painting days.
Sundays
And-
were always painting days.
Otherwise, it's...
As far back as Practical Magic, as far back as
Yeah.
like being on Friday Harbor,
Yeah. So it's a great balance that has to be struck between how do you make a living and how do you
Yeah.
maintain your creative spirit,
Yeah.
and be honest with yourself and truthful with your practice. That's, I think, one of the hardest challenges for any artist to do. And that's why I have so much admiration for Lisa and how hard she's worked at everything she's done.
Likewise.
But, and these, like, I went and saw that piece over there, and she explained it to me. In 300, how many years of your history?
Oh, the Ancestor tree, it goes back 113 generations. It goes back to before Christ. And the thing about going back in time is the pool of people gets smaller and smaller and smaller. But I just fell down a rabbit hole one day. How I got there is I was looking for Druids, but I ended up with early Christians. I was like, what?
Why were you looking for Druids?
Because that's all I'm interested in
Oh.
is Celtic mythology.
Okay.
The Celtic mythology, now that I have just, at a certain point, when I was young, I used to love to draw fairy tales. Now I love to draw adult fairy tales. But yeah, I was looking to see who the Druids were.
And were you tied into them?
Yes, well, because so much of our history through my mother and my mother's line, specifically her father's line, goes back through basically the royalty of the British Isles,
Really?
back to Joseph of Arimathea.
Huh. So all the little names around the edges
Yeah,
are all
there's,
the people.
I tried to get as many of those women in there as I could.
Which is pretty amazing. When I saw it, I thought, well, that's cool. And then she explained it to me, and I went, oh. So that's a family tree beyond a family tree.
It is a family tree, and I have a feeling it's something I will work with a lot. Just, as you get older, you become more interested in where you came from.
Mm-hmm. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
And the tree back here, she sent me pictures of it. And then when I saw it, and I saw that the leaves were actually photographs of leaves. Oh,
Yeah.
how nice is that? How beautiful is that? It's poetic.
Yeah, when you get older and you're retired, you have time to do things that you didn't do before. You have 6 months to cut 2,568 leaves.
Is that how many are on there?
Yes. It's a live oak. It's based on a live oak tree. And all of those photographs are taken in the really ancient oak grove at Descanso Gardens. And it was part of a larger show that was on exhibit at Descanso Gardens in La Crescenta last year. It was the big event of last year.
So this is new.
Yes, this is 2025. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What, the watercolors and the landscapes, and they're almost a bridge between figurative and
Yep.
abstraction. And what does that mean to you?
First of all, I think that every single painting, however realistic it might look, is an abstract object because it's blobs of paint. And I don't think of these as abstracts. I think of these as detail shots of a section of a landscape. have always been very fascinated in weather and sunlight and shadow and the chemistry that you get between water and light. And that's what all my work is based on. It's observing light.
Do you feel, now Lisa grew up in Texas?
Well,
In part.
my family are deeply ingrained in Texas. My dad was in the Air Force, so I lived lots of places, but we always came back to Texas. And from 1968 until I fled to New York City, we lived in Texas.
Hold on, let me turn this off.
So Texas has got big skies. And it is not a metaphor, it's real. You are there and the sky is bigger. You get to New Haven, Connecticut, and you feel like the sky is on top of your head. And I also spent a lot of time on the coastlines. I worked in Wilmington, North Carolina quite a bit, and I became completely entranced with salt marshes and have sought out salt marshes everywhere I go since, because it is, first of all, it's an ecosystem, but it is the perfect place to observe light and atmosphere. And it changes through every minute. None of these are done, I don't paint plein air. Sometimes I don't even take photographs. Sometimes I just sit there. And these, in many ways, are what I call memory paintings. This right here, the ghost trees of Lake Waco. Waco has a man-made lake that they flooded a valley that had fully old growth trees. Those old growth trees are still going, but they poke up out of the water. And I always thought they were the ghosts. And they impacted me so deeply when I was a kid. But I didn't paint this until like 2024. You know, so it takes a long time sometimes for memory to come up and surface.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And
but
the space and the
yeah,
time.
all of these are personal expressions of an experience in nature that I've had.
You
Yeah.
talked about Sunday, you used the example Sunday was painting.
Yeah.
And I have read that you were looking for something that was easy to transport, easy for your downtime when you were working. Were there other mediums that you tried before you homed in on the watercolor?
Okay, before my husband and I moved to Connecticut to attend the Yale School of Drama, we lived in Dallas, and I had an actual honest-to-God painting studio, and my paintings were 6 by 4 foot oil paintings and pastels. These are all from those early, I mean, this is the amount of dirt and dust that these kick up to create is enormous. You can't do that when you're living in a small urban apartment with your sick partner and your child. So I had to, that's when I started doing watercolor. And it was not easy. It wasn't natural to me. And I started using Doc Martens inks. I have hundreds of paintings that totally disappeared off the paper because they're not color fast.
Right.
I've got years and years and years of work that's gone. You open the portfolio, there's ghosts of them, but they're gone. And that's when I started investing in higher quality watercolor. And now it's a medium because it's so different. I still do oil paintings. I have an oil painting in a show right now in LA. But this just became my voice for so long that it is where I go to first now.
What time frame were your pastels during?
These are both from 1986. Yep.
Is there a story behind that particular picture? Jesus.
I was doing a lot of florals at that time. This is a time when I sold work almost the minute I put it on a wall. I can't even tell you how fast work sold. And it never occurred to me that that wouldn't always happen. Well, it didn't always happen. And this was a piece that I hardly ever even showed to anyone because I just loved it. And one of the things I loved the most about it is that I love silhouette. I love the contrast of silhouette, of shadows, of, you know, this tree in many ways is a silhouette. Mm-hmm. And when I was in Parsons School of Design, 1974, I'm a young girl from Texas. I'm only 17 years old, and I had the snottiest textile design teacher known to humanity. He was Vincent Minnelli, who also ran the Metropolitan Costume Institute. He gave me a D, because he said silhouette doesn't work. But silhouette is part of it's part of my inner calligraphy. And I think that's part of the reason why that piece is so dear to me. And this has been in a portfolio for 40 years in glassine, sealed up. And the fact that I still have it, as much as I move, is kind of a miracle.
This first time it's been shown?
Ever.
Right.
I don't even know if Sarah's ever even seen it before.
Remember the irises?
Yes, lots of irises. Yes, yes, yes.
Any other questions? Anybody? Anybody? Come
I
on.
have a question for you.
Yeah.
You described this situation with this and your inspiration for it. Have you done very much of a two-dimensional type of?
This is the very first two-dimensional piece of work I ever did in my entire life. And the tree, and that led into that.
Oh,
And there will be more of these.
I think so.
Yeah, this is definitely a method that's, yeah.
So you find there's more atmosphere and the three-dimensionality of it, as opposed to the two-dimensional rendering you might could do or painting you might could do. Is that part of it?
And some of it is even simpler than that. I have so much work. When you paint a watercolor, it might happen within 3 hours. I can paint 100 watercolors in a week if I could afford the paper. I am trying to find ways to slow down. And that's an honest to God reality. I am trying to find ways to work slower. I am starting to oil paint again. But yeah, I mean, this is a very costly passion. You know, that piece of paper is $45. And the thing about watercolor, you can't mess up. You mess up, you can't fix it. There's no fixing.
One-shot deal.
So, will I still make watercolor? Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm just, and the thing is I love trees. I was the kid that spent her life in the trees. You know? So.
You said your family had people in the airport. Were you around San Antonio?
My dad is buried in San Antonio, but we never lived there. Mm-mm.
Any other questions
About art?
about art?
Are you still involved in the movie industry?
No. I am retired.
So that's what you retired from?
Yes. That was my day job.
14 hours a day, 6 days a week.
That was my day job.
When
Literally.
did you retire?
I retired in 2020.
Before COVID.
Right before COVID, yeah. And I had all these big plans.
Oh.
Just like everybody else in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
The textile is yours as well?
The textiles are
Oh, yeah.
mine. When my daughter was born, I worked in a textile design studio in New York City, contrary to Vincent Minnelli's D grade. And I remember she was in a bassinet next to my work table. And granted, she was 6 weeks old. And I was like, this is really easy. This baby's so good. Why do people complain? Well, you know, once they get out of the bassinet, it's a whole different story. But yeah, and one of the things I wanted to do when I retired was I started a business called Yaya Design Studio. And I thought I'd make all these textiles, but it was COVID. And I'm just now slowly figuring, I mean, it's only now that I'm getting public feedback on them. What do people like? What do people want to buy? What sells? Because, you know, these are a commodity. You're not making these. I make these with a different impulse that I make these. This is, you know, trying to make some cash.
Yeah.
But pretty, you know, you want it to be pretty and you want people to enjoy it.
Are any of them hand painted or are they?
These are all hand painted. The only digital print left, Judith is wearing one, and this is the last digital print that I have. I broke my hand in 2022, 2023, and I broke my right hand. So I created all these prints in Photoshop with my left hand. And those two digital pieces are, but there's a lot of middlemen involved, and it's expensive, and there's no you don't have a resale value on them. Whereas this is just my labor and my materials. So yeah, each one of these, they're all unique. None of them are the same. So that's the textile story. And take that, Vincent Minnelli. He was a brilliant man.
And these books here are Lisa's designs and films that she's worked on. And there's one over there, it was a film about young Abraham Lincoln. And a really beautiful film. And talk about the material that they had.
it's called The Better Angels, and a very young, passionate filmmaker who had worked as an editor for another passionate filmmaker named Terrence Malick came up with the idea that he wanted to make this film about Abe Lincoln's childhood. And Terrence produced it. There is very little actual research from the 1810s in the frontier in America. So you're trying to sort of extrapolate what you think these clothes may have looked at. Like, so I have a long history of working heavily with museums, and I was lucky enough to discover that the Museum of Natural History in LA has a costume collection that no one knows about. And the curator made an appointment with me, and she brought out clothes from a little bit later, but what she brought out was textiles. And everyone in the American frontier made their own clothes for the most part, because cloth that was imported from Europe was extraordinarily expensive, and your average small homestead farmer could barely even feed his cattle. So everything was made of something called Lindsay woolsey, and it's a combination of, they all grew flax and they had goats. So you would take the flax and the goats and you would spin it together on a spinning wheel to create this fiber Lindsay woolsey, and that's what everything was made out of. And in my mind, I always pictured this heavy, itchy fabric. This was the softest fabric I've ever felt. So, I mean, obviously these clothes are not made of Lindsay woolsey, but you know, they're all made by hand with me and a small team, and we rented some of the menswear from a costume house. And I mean, that was a work of love, that little film.
Low budget film is what she's saying.
Very low budget film. Very low budget film.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you,
Thank you,
very
Lisa.
much for coming.
Thank you all for coming.